Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets of the South Korean capital to denounce what they call the president's authoritarian rule. The government has deployed 18,000 police officers backed by water cannons to control the situation in case it gets out of control. Police tried to ban the rally, but a court ruled in favor of the organizers, saying that a ban would be unjust. The organizers have vowed to mount a peaceful demonstration. The first rally on November 14 drew around 60,000 people and saw numerous clashes between protesters and police. The administration of President Park Geun-Hye is facing mounting resentment over a range of issues, including her plans to impose new history textbooks on schools, to further open the agricultural market, and to reform the labor market. Let's find out more about this from Seoul. Our correspondent Frank Smith joins us. Frank, so what do we know about this particular protest and the one previous? Both are very much large in the numbers. So is the administration or Park Geun-Hye herself in danger here?
Well, I think really what's in danger are general elections coming up next year for her Saner and New Frontier Party. They're worried about losing some seats because of her sort of hardline strategy to try to contain public discontent with her policies. You mentioned three issues there: the textbooks issue, the farmers issue, and free trade and labor reforms. She's really pursuing some policies that generally favor the chaebol, the corporations and wealthy people here in South Korea, and ignored some of the campaign pledges that she made, particularly concerning economic democratization, trying to raise and maintain South Korea's middle class. What we saw was a bit tamer protest today and tonight than what happened on November 14th. I attended both of these demonstrations, and today you saw the protesters, generally the demonstrators, behaving themselves, at least late in the afternoon and the early evening. There is a candlelight vigil probably taking place right now, so what might take place later tonight is anyone's guess. And curiously, what we also saw tonight was kind of a step back from the police department. There was a police presence, but there weren't the lines of buses and water cannon firing on the main plaza, the main area of Seoul that we saw on November 14th. So we might see a scaling back in the volume and the ferocity of the protests moving forward.
And I'm not too sure if this would relate to it. It may. Maybe you can tell us and clarify us on this, Frank. And that is this TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. I believe that was actually approved. Do you think that some of those, how can I say, clauses or rules that would apply to the region, including South Korea, is perhaps being exercised by the president to get the public used to what's going to be coming their way, perhaps? Because you mentioned some of the corporations this is working in favor in South Korea.
That's right.
Could this have any relationship with that?
That's right. Yes, I think it could. There were hundreds of civic organizations represented at these demonstrations, and one of the issues that's coming up is free trade, and South Korea just recently signed a free trade agreement and is implementing a free trade agreement with China, and the Trans-Pacific Partnership that they're pursuing is another element of the expanding free trade, giving sort of breaks to corporations and eroding South Korea's middle class. And certainly many of the civic organizations gathering at these demonstrations are taking a hard look at that and trying to reverse some of the policies that Park Geun-Hye and her government are pursuing.
Thank you for that. It's a pleasure talking to you. Frank Smith, correspondent there from Seoul.